There's a secular author who passed away, sadly, from suicide. I think he, in his pain, in his wrestle, he named the reality we all live in. His name is David Foster Wallace. There's been a movie made about his life. He wrote a book that all kinds of people said was a really wonderful novel in the late 20th century. But he says this: in the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is no such thing as atheism. There's no such thing as not worshipping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And see, this is what David is saying here in this psalm. David Foster Wallace goes on, "There's an outstanding reason for choosing some sort of God," as I said, he's not a Christian, or spiritual type thing to worship, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. He says, if you worship money and things, if they're where you tap real meaning in life, then you will never have enough. Never feel you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly, and when the time and age start showing, you'll die a million deaths before they finally plant you. Worship power, and you'll feel weak and afraid, and you'll need ever more power over others to keep the fear at bay. Worship your intellect, being seen as smart, and you'll end up feeling stupid, a fraud, always on the edge of being found out. The insidious thing about all these forms of worship is not that they're evil or sinful, it's that they're unconscious. They're the default settings. They're the kind of worship you just gradually slip into day after day, getting more and more selective about what you see and how you measure value without ever being fully aware that's what you're doing. What David is doing here is helping himself and us be conscious about what we worship. It's really easy to unconsciously worship unhealthy things and to have those things come in and set your agenda for you. Jesus understood this. This is why I think there is I'm increasingly coming to view the parable of the sower as kind of the key parable that all the others help unpack. And the idea that the sower plants a seed, and for some people it just bounces off. For some people it falls on rocky ground so it doesn't get down into the ground. But then for some people it gets down into the ground. But remember what it says? The worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desire for other things come in and choke the word. What he's saying is, Jesus is saying, this is in the parable of the sower, that all of a sudden you start worshipping other stuff. And that stuff starts setting your agenda for you. And no longer are you worshipping God. David here in the Psalms is saying, I don't ever want to do that. I don't ever want to get my priorities wrong. Valuing and worshipping the wrong things has profound consequences. There is something in your life that is the most important thing in your life to you. And what David is saying is, if that most important thing in your life isn't God, you're going to wind up in trouble, is what David is saying.